So why is the crucible more preferable to filter paper during the drying process? So I mentioned this. So the filtering crucible is not absorbent, okay? So this is basically what this says. Filter papers are absorbent. Absorbent meaning they absorb water in this case. So because the filter paper may absorb some water, from the atmosphere or from the, say, humidity of the kind of device, it could throw off our measurements because we would be adding a little bit of water mass to our filter paper sand mass. So we'll get wrong results. So the crucible doesn't absorb water, so we can just ignore that error because it's not going to exist. Okay? So that's why it could be beneficial to use the crucible. So other than the drying phase, what are some sources of error in this investigation? So again, we're thinking about, well, first question was about what are the variables? Second question was about what are some ways to improve the experiment? And this one is saying, well, even if we can't improve the experiment, we want to know where there is error. Error exists, and that's something we deal with. So the question is, as long as we can identify it, we can try and minimize it as much as possible, but it's not going to disappear. So that's really important when you design experiments. So, one may be that the salt may be left on the sand because we didn't wash it well. There's no, for instance, a universal standard on washing. That's just one problem. We have to deal with the fact that not everyone is going to be able to wash perfectly the sand, and that's a source of error, as you can see. And again, someone might get a little bit over-enthusiastic about the boiling process. Salt splatter is another source of error. This one we can reduce a lot, right? Because we just say, look, don't splatter the salt. But this one is a little bit harder because it's not always immediately apparent how clean the sand needs to be. So that's just something to think about. Well, this one we can basically get rid of. This one is a little bit more difficult to completely ignore. Okay, so just two sources of error that have different ways of dealing with them. Okay, discuss the need for safety precautions while carrying out this experiment. Safety, of course, is important. We don't want anyone hurting themselves. So from what you can see, it's pretty safe, this experiment. Nothing super dangerous that we're doing. It's just, if you go to the beach, it's as dangerous as this experiment, I guess. For instance, glass, I would expect that, people don't break glass. Obviously, that's one danger, but that kind of is so much common sense that we'll just ignore it because we expect that you don't break the glass. But the real risk here is burning yourself. Now, obviously, again, that seems like common sense, but there is an element of risk when you are boiling or heating things, and burns are particularly nasty, right? You just have to be aware to avoid burns because that is just one risk of this experiment.